Well, hello. We're going to be finishing up the mystery of Devil's Gulch. Um, so let's begin. It's the last few chapters of the book, and I do hope you enjoy it. And then the next book will be coming out very soon, and it's called The Mystery of Whispering One. And then after that's The Mystery of the Scroll Thief of Alexandria. We're just sort of on a roll after a long time of not doing it. Okay. All right, chapter 18. The ground beneath us swayed. Get down, screamed Peter. The earth rumbled and rocks tumbled everywhere. Earthquakes are not common in the Oregon area, but we have had our share over the last few years. Grandpa, are you all right? I cried out. I couldn't see through the swirling dust and the flying debris. Fear gripped me, and I started to tremble uncontrollably. Rachel, I'm right here. Come here, sweetheart. It's all going to work out, Grandfather said soothingly. His voice was magical for me. I went to him, held his hand, and said, This is crazy. Here we are in a dark cave with boulders falling everywhere, and being with you makes me feel like everything will turn out all right. How do you do that, Grandpa? He laughed and he wiped the tears from my face. That is what love does, beautiful granddaughter. Well, we don't have to worry about choosing the wrong tunnel to go through, grumbled Sheriff Johnson. The rocks have completely blocked the way we came in and the left tunnel. Let's get going, everyone else said curtly. I realized her voice held a tension I hadn't heard before. I looked at Blue Star questioningly. She knows your grandfather needs help. Rachel, she said quietly. We stumbled, fell, and walked slowly through the caverns and the tunnels that seemed to wind endlessly. Bear started barking and ran off into the darkness ahead of us. Let's hope Bear has found the way out and not those creeps that tied me up, said Captain Gregory weakly. Listen, I hear the surf crashing. There must be a cave or an opening close by, said Peter. I think we're behind Devil's Gulch, said Alice slowly. Look, there's a light up ahead, Blue Star said as she pointed towards a glow at the end of the tunnel that we were in. Sheriff Johnson and Peter went rushing off ahead of us into the mist. Blue Star yelled, Rachel, Mom, look. I couldn't believe what we saw ahead of us. Look at all of this. This old trunk has to be 200 years old. These coins are real gold. I think these necklaces and earrings and bracelets are all filled with real diamonds and rubies and emeralds and pearls. There are even rare maps and books here, shouted Peter from the corner of this huge cave. Peter, did you light those torches? Who lit the torches on the wall? Asked Alice tensely. Good question, Alice, came a rough, familiar voice from the darkness. We all turned around to see three shadowy figures standing in the corner. One of them was holding what looked like a rifle. Another had a coiled rope ready for use. A deep, threatening growl came from Captain Gregory's side as Bear stood besides his master, ready to give his life to protect him. Keep that mangy mutt under control or he dies, said the older-looking blonde guy holding the gun. Bear, down boy, stay, Captain Gregory commanded weakly. Bear instantly lay down with his ears alert, ready to jump if he needed to. Let these people go, said Sheriff Johnson bravely. They can't hurt you. One of the figures stepped out of the shadows. Oh no, Adam, I gasped. The other two males came into the full light, and we all stared at them in stunned silence. So, which one of you is Adam? Alice asked. Oh, Alice, you're always so calm. I bet you wish you could shapeshift yourself out of this one. Might meet my little brother, Arnie, and friend George. You slimeball, raged Peter. Well, if it isn't the journalist's son, fancy meeting you here, snarled Adam's brother, Arnie. Sheriff Johnson jumped in and grabbed Peter before he could lunge at Arnie. Quit talking. Let's tie them up and get out of here. This place gives me the creeps, said George. Okay, let's tie these detectives and Captain O'Toole up to those old iron rings stuck in the ground. We don't need them running after us, said Arnie. Arnie, with these earthquakes, they might be buried alive down here, Adam said. They might die. I don't want to have anything to do with that. Stop whining. Do what I tell you. You're always worried about hurting people. Well, sometimes people get hurt, Arnie said coldly. You mean like my father, you jerk, yelled Peter. We didn't have anything to do with that, Adam said. Arnie laughed. Really? We didn't help Uncle Bill when he was trying to rob places? Adams stood up and looked stunned. You told me that car hitting Peter's father was an accident. Adam, shut up. He was chasing me. I ran out in the street and Uncle Bill was driving the car that hit him, okay? Arnie said. Chapter 19. What's that, Mother? Cried Blue Star. The whole group looked where Blue Star pointed, and a fuzzy white and blue cloud of light was forming in the farthest corner of the cave. Bear whined and backed up next to his grandfather, who was looking very weak and pale. Is that a pirate? Asked Peter slowly. I'm not just any pirate, son. My name is Captain Jean Laffite, and this is my treasure. You must all leave now. George dropped his gun and ran out of the cave before anyone could stop him. Arnie stepped up and said, No, you don't understand. We are distant relatives of yours. My family has been looking for this treasure for generations. You scoundrel. What good did getting all of this treasure do me? I roamed the seas trapped by all the crimes I committed when I was alive. I had choices and I sometimes made bad choices. I need to help you all get out of here alive to break the curse. And I need you boys, relatives of mine, to help them and me. Only then will our family be free of my evil deeds. Captain Laffite roared at Arnie. There's a curse on our family? Asked Adam. But what do you mean we have? What do you mean we have to do to break it? You must do good deeds to make up for the bad ones. Please help me so my spirit can rest. Help yourself before it's too late, pleaded the captain. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, right. This treasure will put me on Easy Street forever. I'm not leaving it here after all the work I put in. Don't listen to this crazy old coot, Adam, Arnie said as he reached to tie Blue Star's hands. Suddenly, a large red-tailed hawk swooped into the giant cave and landed on Blue Star's arm. She disappeared, and the hawk flew around the cave, diving directly at Arnie with its sharp talons ready to strike. I told you only rare individuals could shapeshift, Alice said as Arnie screamed. Adam, throw a rock at that bird. Adam picked up a rope, turned and grabbed his brother and tied him up and said, I don't want to be cursed for the rest of my life. Aye, that's my lad, yelled Captain Laffite. Now hurry, get them all out of here quick before it's too late. The earth beneath my feet shook. Come on, Rachel, let's get your grandfather up and out of here, said Peter. So he reached down and helped my grandfather up. Adam, Alice, and Sheriff Johnson ran through a small tunnel near Captain Laffite. Come on, you guys, hurry up. This tunnel leads to the outside, said Adam. The hawk flew over their heads with Bear running after it. Peter and I helped my grandfather struggle through the tunnel as quickly as we could. When suddenly the earth shook again, we all heard a huge crashing and booming sound rippling from the caves. Look out, Peter, hurry, or we'll be trapped in here forever, I screamed. As we scrambled to the opening of the tunnel, we heard Sam Harris's booming voice. I can't believe you all got out of there alive. Then turning to Peter, he said, I got here as soon as I could. Thank God you had your cell phone turned on or I never would have found you. I got here just in time to catch this blonde guy babbling about a ghost and some girl turning into a hawk. Oh, yeah, well, Peter stumbled over his words as Blue Star came walking towards them with her fingers to her lips, signaling him to be quiet. Sheriff Johnson laughed nervously and said, "Now, really, Sam." Suddenly, Sheriff Johnson's deputy, Howard, drove up. He jumped out of the car. "Sorry I'm late, sir. People kept stopping me, telling me that they saw a pirate ship near the lighthouse." "Oh, yeah, well, actually, that ship belonged to my great uncle, Jean Laffite," Adam said. Sam Harris and Sheriff Johnson's deputy both stared at Adam in disbelief. Sam Harris said, "Okay, Adam, your great uncle was the infamous pirate Jean Laffite, and he just happened to show up on a large pirate ship 2 centuries later?" Peter laughed and said, "Sam, relax. You forgot a couple of greats." "And Arnie is still down in the cave," interrupted Alice. "Howard, get a crew down here. We need to dig Arnie Lafitte out of this hole if we can. He's wanted in other states," Sheriff Johnson said to his deputy. "Sheriff, we need an ambulance. Captain O'Toole needs medical attention," said Alice. "It's already on the way, my dear lady," he said with a deep bow. We all laughed. Chapter 20. The breeze gently moved the yellow curtains that lined the lighthouse windows. My grandfather was happily stirring one of his mystery stews. Alice had made some turkey sandwiches. We looked over at the small group sitting around the solid oak table and said, "Well, we've had quite an adventure." Everybody laughed. "There are a few unanswered questions, though, don't you think?" I said. "Oh, just a few," said Peter, laughing as he put more wood in the stove. Blue Star walked through the doorway as he closed the stove door and said, "Well, let's start with you being some kind of spy, Peter." Peter turned around and said, "Oh, that you can turn yourself into a hawk might be a good starting point." Captain O'Toole laughed so hard he had to wipe tears from his eyes as he said, "You all will never know how wonderful it is to be in this kitchen again, listening to you bicker. Thank you so much for finding me. Why don't we start with Peter and his spy story?" I said, trying to hide the grin on my face and giving my grandfather a big hug. Peter sighed and said, "Well, it started when the men that were working with Arnie ran over my father. I asked my Uncle Sam if I could help him get information on them." "I can't believe," he said, "yes." "You could have been hurt," said Alice. Peter laughed. "He didn't say yes. He told me to be patient and let the police handle everything." Wait a minute, Peter. "You came out here without your uncle's approval?" Blue Star asked. "No, I told him I just wanted to get away from Minnesota for a while, and I would help him work on the house," Peter said smilingly, which actually was all true. "Do you really think your Uncle Sam was fooled, Peter?" laughed Captain O'Toole. We all looked at my grandfather, stunned into silence. He walked around the table, limping as he served each one of us a bowl of his mystery stew. Sam Harris and I have had many long conversations about Peter, his many unusual talents, his strange ability to be in the right place at the right time, he said as he put homemade rolls in the middle of the table. So he decided it was better to give him safe tasks that might put him someplace where he could hear something. "Of course, that was all before you got kidnapped," said Blue Star quietly. "Yes, that changed everything. All plans went out the window then," Captain Gregory said. "Okay, so we have Peter, the spy, figured out. Let's talk about Lady Hawk here," chuckled Peter laughingly. "I'm not sure we've heard the whole story about Peter," I said with a smile. "Of course we haven't, but remember, dear granddaughter, that curiosity killed the cat. So leave the boy alone," my grandfather said teasingly. I laughed and said, "Okay, for now, Peter is off the hook." "Good. Now, Blue Star, how long have you been able to shapeshift?" Peter asked eagerly. "Yeah, that was really amazing," I said. Blue Star's eyes twinkled, and she said, "My mom taught me when I was about 10 years old." "Your mom?" Peter asked. "Alice, you can shapeshift too?" I asked. "Blue Star is learning to be a medicine woman from one of the best shamans around here. Her mother," said my grandfather. I thought shapeshifting was unusual and that only special people could do it, Peter said, his eyes wide with serious appreciation. Well, all of that is true, Peter, but somehow most of the women in our family have been able to master shapeshifting and many of the healing arts as well, Blue Star said. So your grandmother could shapeshift too? Wow, I said, totally awed by their abilities. Alice smiled and said, yes, dear, but Blue Star isn't the only one with an amazing grandmother. Did you tell your grandfather all you learned about and from your grandmother Mariah? What? Captain O'Toole said, almost knocking over his steaming hot mug of tea. We met Sheriff Johnson's grandmother, Mrs. Johnson, a couple of days ago. She knew my grandmother really well and told me all about her special abilities. You never told me that she knew things and that she healed people and animals, I said. Grandpa turned red and he said, well, I guess I just got used to keeping all of that a secret while she was alive. And I never got around to talking to you about her. This kidnapping thing has taught me some big lessons about communicating with the people you love before it's too late. Well, right in the middle of our search for you, I had an intense dream. And Grandmother Mariah showed me where to go so that we could find you. And she told me to save her love, I said with tears welling up in my eyes. My grandfather stood up, came over to my chair, and we hugged. There were no words to express how much we loved each other. Then, smiling, he said, Mrs. Johnson and your grandmother were close friends. They used to sit around in small groups and explore all kinds of things, including past lives, numerology, astrology, clairvoyance. She used to tease me and tell me that we all travel together through time. So no matter what happened to her this lifetime, she would be with me forever. I used to tease her back that it sounded more like a threat than a promise. Blue Star interrupted and said, why was the pirate's map hidden inside your book, The Mystery of Skelly Michael, sir? Oh, of course, you would have found that book if you found the map. I didn't even think about that, he added thoughtfully. Grandfather sat back in his rocking chair, just as I had seen him do so many times before. Peter, do you remember us talking about time travel? Peter looked up with his mouth full of food, nodding his head yes, clearly embarrassed that he had stuffed half of his sandwich in his mouth. Well, the truth of the matter, he continued slowly, is Rachel's grandmother, Mariah, was a very special lady. She came from a long line of Celtic mystics, and Mariah learned how to heal people, travel through time, and many other amazing things that we think are impossible. Peter choked and spit half of his sandwich out. Blue Star opened her mouth to say something and nothing came out. Alice and I both laughed together at this new amazing piece of information. There was a beautiful rare red diamond ring in Mariah's family. It was passed on through time, apparently from the Druids in Ireland. The ring could only be worn by the female descendants of those Druids. It was said that the ring gave the female that wore it extraordinary powers. It was very important to your grandmother that this ring was passed on to you, Rachel, her only granddaughter, grandfather said, taking a deep breath. He continued, unfortunately, the ring was not passed on to her mother. It was hidden somewhere in Ireland near Skelly Michael by her grandmother Rose. She had died young before she could pass it on to her daughter, Mary Helen. Her mother, Sarah, had passed it on to Rose before she died in the 1800s. Sarah, is that the same Sarah that the book talks about in Skelly Michael? Peter asked. Yes, Peter, Captain O'Toole said. Mariah and I took a plane to Ireland and searched through trunks, boxes, and closets, hoping we could find that ring. And that is when we came across the mystery of the Skelly Michael in this old trunk, and that used to belong to Mariah's great grandmother, Sarah. We both must have been so disappointed when you didn't find the ring. You both must have been so disappointed when you didn't find the ring, Captain O'Toole, said Blue Star. What makes you think we didn't find it? We all sat straight up, stunned into silence, and we watched him slowly get up and limp over to the old trunk. Still sitting on the corner, he opened the heavy top, reached down into the corner of the floor of the trunk, and as he pulled up a false bottom, books, papers, and a small black velvet bag popped out. He put the bag on his hand, and he walked slowly back to his chair. Rachel, would you please come here, my dear, he said. Trembling, I walked over to him. He opened the bag and slipped the most beautiful ring I had ever seen on my hand. It was a small silver ring in the shape of a rose, and in the center was a sparkling red diamond. My whole body tingled all over. I felt very strange and good all at the same time. Alice, there are some papers and gold books that are filled with ancient wisdom and information that go with the ring. Would you mind taking those and help Rachel learn how to use some of the new powers that she will have in time? I mean, since Mariah isn't here, I thought maybe you wouldn't mind helping her, Captain O'Toole asked. Alice went to the trunk, pulled the books and the papers out very carefully, and said, I would consider it an honor if that is what Rachel would like. Oh, look, everyone, what it says right here in the first chapter of this beautiful hand-sewn book. Peter, Blue Star, and I all went over to where she was sitting next to the table and my grandfather. Wow, said Peter in awe. The words of the first chapter were in two languages, one that I couldn't read at all, and handwritten text in English, written fully under each line. Time Travel was the title of the first chapter. Rachel and her grandmother mastered most of the tasks. Rachel, your grandmother mastered most of the tasks in these books. I was totally amazed at how quickly she learned to translate all the text into English. She felt it was very important. She prayed that we would have grandchildren. She was so happy when you were born. Mariah had planned on passing the ring and the books on to your mother, but both of them died unexpectedly, so it didn't happen. This is a miracle, and I am so happy, said Grandfather lovingly. But sir, how do we know that this ring can really take anybody back in time? Asked Peter. More importantly, how do we know that if this ring does take Rachel someplace else in time, that she'll be able to come back here in the present? Blue Star chimed in. Captain O'Toole laughed right out loud, a deep belly laugh, as he said, okay, I think there are too many questions for an old man quite tired. Everybody go home, eat dinner, get some sleep, be here tomorrow morning at dawn, and wear your traveling clothes. Chapter 21. The glow of the rising sun fills the morning sky. Soft shades of gold and pink and rose flood my bedroom window. Early dawn is one of my favorite times of the day. I hear the birds greeting the sun, the aroma of coffee and bacon floating up the spiral staircase to the second floor of the lighthouse, where my small, cozy bedroom is. I sit straight up when I realize that this morning was very special. I looked down at my hand and gazed at the beautiful rose-shaped ring with sunlight dancing deep within the red diamond. Just as I jumped out of bed, I hear my grandfather say, Rachel, rise and shine. We have a wonderful adventure ahead of us today. I washed my face, brushed my hair, brushed my teeth, pulled on my jeans and a purple sweatshirt. My grandfather was opening the door when I got down to the kitchen. Good morning, everyone. Come on in, Grandfather said cheerfully. Blue Star and Alice were bright-eyed and really ready to start our adventure. Peter seemed to be half asleep. Wake up, Peter. Have some orange juice, Grandfather said brightly. We all sat down to a quick breakfast, eagerly anticipating my grandfather's instructions. He smiled at Alice and he said, shall we begin? Yes, now is the perfect time, Alice said. Last night, I spent several hours going through Mariah's notes and books. Captain O'Toole confided to me that he went with Mariah on many traveling expeditions through the years. So we have one experienced time traveler with us already. Peter woke up. Does that mean we can go with Rachel when she tries to go somewhere? Star's eyes got very wide. Wow, she said in awe. Yes, I believe if we are careful, we can all go together to any place in history, as long as our intentions are clear, positive, and loving, said Alice. So let's get started. Mariah and I would leave early in the morning. And no matter how long we'd been gone, we always came home by nightfall of the same day, Captain O'Toole said. According to the notes, we have to choose a time, a place, and be prepared as best we can to blend into wherever we are, Alice said. I would love to see what Skelly Michael looks like, I said. I've always wondered about the Underground Railroad that went from the south to Maryland, Peter chimed in. Could we go to ancient Greece or Alexandria? Asked Blue Star. There are so many places and times in history that I would love to visit. It would be hard to narrow down one place to go, Alice said thoughtfully. You know, Skelly Michael might be a good beginning, actually, because Mariah and I went there several times, and I'm sure I have clothes that we got our last trip there in the 1800s, Captain O'Toole said. Maybe we could go where Jonathan Cavanaugh was shipwrecked, Peter said. That sounds good to me, said Blue Star. My grandfather opened up the closet, found the clothes and shoes we needed, and we all changed quickly. Okay, now we all must remember to stay together. While time traveling, no wandering off to do your own investigations. We have to stay with Rachel in the ring, warned Alice. Everybody get in a circle and hold hands, said Captain O'Toole. Bear started to bark, jumping up and down. No, boy, you stay here. We'll be back at sundown. We held hands. Rachel, you must now use the chant I taught you last night. When it comes to the time and the place, just say Skelly Michael, Ireland, 1827, Alice said. I closed my eyes. Beautiful colors seemed to be swirling around in my head as I chanted. Ancient ones, guide and protect us as we travel to another time. Thank you for all the blessings and gifts we have. Skelly Michael, Ireland, 1827, is our destination now. The colors grew very intense, and as we all kept our eyes closed, holding hands, it felt as if we were on a mountaintop being surrounded by powerful winds spiraling upward towards the sky. Then suddenly there was a deep silence and a loud crack. We all opened our eyes. The Atlantic Ocean was crashing far below us on the rocks of Skelly Michael. Puffins and a huge variety of birds were everywhere. The land was rugged, green, and wild. I turned towards the mainland and saw the land of my ancestors. My heart beat wildly as I realized we had just traveled back through time over 2 centuries. The end. Thank you very much. And I hope you liked that. And I hope that you, when the Mystery of Whispering Wand comes out sometime towards, I want to say the fall of 2022, that you either read it or buy a copy or find it in Kindle on Amazon or later on BookBub. You know, I would love to, or buy the book. It'll be on my website and probably on Amazon. We'll see where else it goes. So thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed this.